Hello everyone, or anyone, it depends. It's Syphon Filter month. Well, at least you had declared it Syphon Filter month, but it's probably not really, there's no thing that exists, but oh well. Anyway, I did Syphon Filter 1 last week, and that game, you know, like I said, I love it. It's hard, it's annoying, this, that, and the other thing. But no matter what I say, it's always going to be one of my favorite game series. And here is Syphon Filter 2. Disc 1. It's got Logan on the cover. And then here's Disc 2 with Leon. Now, one of the things about this game I just want to point out right away to this, and it's the same length, I think, the same amount of missions as Syphon Filter 1, and graphically, it all looks totally the same, so maybe it's just that there's more cut scenes or something that they have to put into this, but I think that the main reason they put it into this was to divide the missions. Because in Disc 1, there's one mission that basically covers all of the first level up to when you get to the crash site of an airplane, which is, I think, 7 levels. They're all covered in just that disc, because they're all directly related. And then in Disc 2 is everything else, which has a few kind of lines of continuation. There's like 3 levels related, 2 levels related, 2 levels related, 3 more levels related until the end of the game. So, that's all. So anyway, that's just my forward, and here comes the actual Syphon Filter 2 review, and I hope you enjoy it. Syphon Filter 2 begins almost immediately after Syphon Filter 1, as all the major characters are still gathered at the Farcom warehouses. Logan has made the successful discovery of Fagin's personal files, which will hopefully include all of the information regarding Syphon Filter and possible methods to attaining a cure for any specific genetic code that it might have been programmed to adapt to. However, this news is quickly cancelled out due to the fact that the agency arrives. A raid headed by agency members Dylan Morgan and Derek Falcon successfully captures Leon Singh, and they take her away. However, they were not able to get to the important files that they were originally there for, because Logan basically killed them all. After a short meeting with Uri Gregorov of the SVR, Logan's group finally departs from the Farcom warehouses. Though shortly thereafter, the C-130 transport is located by the agency and shot down over the Colorado Rockies. Logan and his men land in the mountain, but the C-130 continues onward and crashes elsewhere. It's up to Logan to navigate the mountain and fight through the agency to reach the crash site and take back Fagin's discs, which were held in the very back of the plane in the tail section. However, Stephen Archer has been given that primary directive to stop Logan from reaching it at any cost and to bring back the data files to the agency. So the entire first disc is set with that race between Logan and Archer to basically get to the crash site first, no matter what, and attain those very important files. A subplot of the first disc is Leon, who's being held somewhere by the agency. She manages to bust out, and the subplot's basically her getting out and going to help Logan at the last possible second. There are a lot of new characters added into Syphon Filter 2. On the heroic side, there are several CBDC agents introduced at the beginning of the game. One is John Ramirez, and the other one is Logan's Lieutenant Jason Chance. Others include a former member of the agency named Teresa Lapon, who had quit a long time ago knowing pretty much what the agency was up to. And she's the one that Gabe and Leon, who have also just left the agency at the beginning of the game, decides to contact for help. Another ally comes in the form of Lawrence Mujari, who has experience in the medical field, and they leave it up to him to take care of Leon when the virus begins to really affect her. New villains have also been added to fill in the spots left by Edward Benton, Thomas Markinson, and other top agency members that were killed in the first game. Stevens is now the head of the agency, and directly under him is Morgan. And as I mentioned before, they have an agent by the name of Stephen Archer, who's put on the direct job to kill Logan in the first disc and take back Fagan's data discs. Another agency member who is mentioned only at the beginning of the game and in one of Leon's missions is Falcon, who was part of the raid where they kidnapped Leon. The gameplay in Syphon Filter 2 is pretty much the same as Syphon Filter 1. If you've played and beaten Syphon Filter 1 as many times as I have, you probably won't notice many differences between either game. One of the big additions is that the enemies now have the ability to headshot you. When this happens, the screen will begin flashing red, and the headshot display will show up over your character. If you do not move out of the way quickly enough or find cover, they will headshot you and you will instantly fail the mission. This happens throughout the entire game, up until possibly the very end, and it's pretty annoying, but once you get the hang of it, you should be alright. The only real way to defeat headshot agents is to headshot them, or if you run out there, just hopefully pray that you can shoot them to death before they actually get a shot off on you, which is really hard to do because most of them have flak jackets, which is another thing that shows up in this game quite more often than it did in the first one. Flak jacket wearing enemies, which take much longer to kill, unless you headshot them. Aside from the gameplay is the music. The music in this game is composed by the exact same person who did it in the first game. Therefore, they both sound pretty much the same. The ambiance when you're wandering in a stage to the action theme when you're engaged in a gunfight with however many guys you're fighting. They're all pretty much the same, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, if you're playing around and you're enjoying the music, that's perfectly fine, which is what I find myself doing all the time. I like the constant beats in the background, and they're done really well. Of course, one of my favorite level themes would have to be the one when you finally get to the crash site at the end of Disc 1. That is one of my favorite tracks in the game, and luckily it's reused later on as a boss theme when you're finally fighting Dylan Morgan. Syphon Filter 2 has a pretty decent fun factor. Probably not as much as Syphon Filter 1 because both games are almost the same thing, with the exception of a few cosmetic changes. But this doesn't separate the fact that if you had fun playing Syphon Filter 1, you really enjoyed the story, and you just had a blast playing through it again, like I did, and I still do as I constantly play over the game, then you're gonna like Syphon Filter 2. One thing to note is that, for me, the difficulty in Syphon Filter 2 just ramped up much quicker than it did in Syphon Filter 1. Like, up until you escaped Romer's base, the snow level in the first one, and then you went to his stronghold, between those two missions, the difficulty really ramped up. But for this game, it seems to be always constantly going up. It never stays even. To this day, I still find the game really hard. So Syphon Filter 2 definitely passes as a fun, but awfully challenging game. Hey everyone, it's Peanut, and she just wants to tell you that she really hopes you enjoy the Syphon Filter non-review. And then next week there will be a Syphon Filter 3 non-review. And she doesn't think she has to look at you to say that for some reason. Yeah, that was just a joke. Anyway, well, partially. But that's week 2 of Syphon Filter month, and I have this to show for. Syphon Filter 2. Which actually, I mentioned it, but while playing, I failed a lot more than I did when I wasn't recording. Like, I played through the level first to record it, just to kind of remember, see if I could remember everything I had to do. And I did well, I only failed once. But when I was recording, I failed like 6 times. Which sucks, but what are you gonna do? And here is Syphon Filter 3. It's going to be next week. It's going to be awesome, and it will end the original trilogy. Though not the involvement with the virus Syphon Filter. That continues on to the 4th game. So that's all for me this week, and I'll see you next week for Syphon Filter 3, and maybe at another point in between.
Wow.
Whoops. That doesn't get in use. Not my problem.
Weirdo.
Did that not work?